The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Good evening. Hi,
Hello.
everybody. We're Moms for Justice. I'm Carolyn, and it's my co-host, Jocelyn.
Hi.
You're freezing up a
So
little
glad you guys
bit.
got to make it.
You're freezing up a
am I?
little bit. I don't know why, but see if you could figure out
Okay.
what's going on your end there. Yeah.
I'm connected.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll start, and hopefully that you can, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with your AirPods. Maybe. So anyway, I'm going to start. Okay, so everybody, this episode, I've been talking about this episode for a while now. I've been wanting to do an episode for a while now. It is on the Piketon family massacre that took place in 2016. It was a pretty big deal in this small village of Piketon, Ohio. Okay, 8 members of the Rhoden family were brutally executed in their homes. The killings were meticulously planned and carried out by the Wagner family. That's George Billy Wagner III, his wife Angela Wagner, and their sons George Wagner and Jake Wagner. The case shocked the small rural community and led to one of the most complex investigations in Ohio history, ultimately resulting in the arrests and convictions of the Wagner family. Now, I know I'm giving a lot of that away already, but unfortunately, I would like to summarize first and then get down to the nitty gritty of things. There's some surprises at the end of the episode as well. Is my co-host still around? Jocelyn, you there? Can you hear me? I don't think she can hear me. So until she comes back on, I'll just switch on over. So anyway, Piketon, Ohio. So I'm a member of this Facebook group on this case, and I know she's frozen. I know. Have her call me right back in, maybe. Maybe that's what she could do, just to call back in. So I'm a member of this Facebook group, and I've spoken to some really amazing people on this group, and all care very much about this case and what happened over there. It was absolutely brutal, and it affected this little town. These people are small town, good country folk. Oh, there she is. All right, let me see if she's back. Are you back? There you are. Hi.
Oh my goodness.
Do you know what the problem? Do you know what that? Wait, now you're gone again, Lynn. Now you're gone again.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
I see you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I can't see you, hon.
I know.
Yeah, I can't see you at all.
I know. I don't know why.
It has something to do with your connection over there or something. I don't know. Why don't you try calling me back in again? I'll continue on, and you just call me back in and see if it works.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. So there's small country folk, Piketon, Ohio. Really good people. Good Christian people. Didn't deserve what happened there. There were like little shops that they have in Piketon, Ohio, a little small local newspaper. There you are. Can you hear me? Now don't move.
I'm not touching the computer. I'm not looking at the internet.
Close-knit people in this town of Piketon. The kind of town where like everybody knew everybody, and Tony's frozen. Very funny. So anyway, everybody knew everybody, and they'd give the shirt off their backs for their neighbor. And, if somebody was on the side of the road with a tire that needed to be changed, people would just pull over and help you out. That's the kind of town this was. So I already summarized it, Jocelyn. So I'm sorry if you missed that. But we'll start right into April 26th, 2016. Okay. So Bobby Jo Manley, she is a sister-in-law of Dana Rhoden, I believe, discovers 2 bodies at the Union Hill Road homes while feeding pets. So she was assigned, I don't know if it was a daily thing for her, but she went over there in the morning to go feed the pets or deal with cows and things like that they had over there. She went to one of the buildings, and she went inside and discovered the body of Chris Sr. and
Well, she went into their house.
She went into one of the buildings. There's many buildings on this piece of property.
But it was a house. She went into their house.
Well, they have them as listed as buildings. So some people were,
Really?
I think there was even people living, like they had a barn. I think some people lived in the barn. I think there was a shed that was made into a house. So I'm saying buildings because I'm not quite sure if they're actual homes, you know?
Right.
If every single one
they
had
were
a
sleeping
kitchen.
though.
Well,
right.
it was the morning time. They would have been up normally at this time because when she showed up, it was 7:51 a.m. So they would have been up normally.
That's true.
So she walks in and she sees the 2 bodies, Chris Sr. and Gary Rhoden. Okay. And she makes a 911 call and she is crying, of course. She's a mess. She sees these 2 people that is in her family that she loves very much, shot execution style. Okay. The police arrives and they end up finding 2 more bodies in another home on the property.
Just crazy.
Yes. And then her brother, James Manley, actually discovers the 3rd crime scene with more victims. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to just give you guys a little bit of an idea of what who this family is. So right in the middle there, you see Dana Rhoden and then Chris Rhoden Sr. They were married. Okay. And then underneath them are their 3 children, Hannah Rhoden, Frankie Rhoden, and Christopher Rhoden Jr., the only minor. He's 16. And then Frankie, he's engaged to Hannah Gilley, who's 20 years old. It's also important to know that Frankie also had a 3-year-old son by another woman. And that 3-year-old son was in the 2nd crime scene that was found. He came to the door, opened the door, and Bobby Jo asked, and his name is Brentley, by the way. She asked Brentley, "Where's your dad?" And he said that he's playing zombie. The only good news about that, I know, the only good thing about any of this is that child was left alive. Okay.
Well, all the children.
Well, I didn't get to that.
And all. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying.
I didn't get to that one yet. Okay. All right. So, then they immediately go to the back bedroom, and that's where they find Frankie Rhoden, Brentley's dad, the 3-year-old's dad, in bed with Hannah Gilley. They are both, shot execution style, and she had a 6-month-old baby that was alive and sleeping between her, but was just completely covered in their blood. So they left that baby alive. And then, as I said before, James Manley, he was the one that discovered the 3rd crime scene, and he discovered Dana Rhoden, the mother, and her daughter, Hannah Rhoden, who's 19 years old. She was found with her baby still trying to breastfeed her, and the baby was alive. But Hannah was shot many times in the head.
Yeah, 5. I think 5 times.
Yeah, I thought Dana was 5 and she was a lot more than that, but I could be wrong.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, right. And if there's any, please correct anything I'm saying, because, we're novices here. We're not trying to be experts.
Yeah.
So, okay, and then in another bedroom was Christopher Rhoden Jr., the 16-year-old. He's the only minor that died. And then later on, they found Kenneth in another trailer, I believe it was, and he's 44. So Kenneth Rhoden is the brother of Christopher Rhoden, as you see there, and Gary Rhoden is a cousin. Okay. And I'm sure that people have watched the Piketon Massacre on Peacock, I think it is.
Right. That's the one I watched. Yeah, on Peacock. Yeah.
And there's another cousin on there that is just, it's so heartbreaking to hear him tell the story. He, lost everybody. I mean, just everybody he loved was there. So it's really heartbreaking.
Well, 8 people.
Eight people.
That's 2 handfuls practically,
In one shot. Can you imagine? I mean, it's already hard enough as it is to deal with losing the life of just one person. And then to find out that almost all of them are wiped out. It's just absolutely horrendous. So, okay. So
the whole family. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, you guys got it now with Dana was married to Chris Sr. She had the 3 children. Okay. Frankie, Chris Jr., and Hannah. And it's important to make note of that because Hannah Gilly and Hannah Rhoden, you could get them confused. Because they have the same name, obviously. And that confused me at first. But, okay, so their funerals were held on May 7th. And at one of the funerals, this family, the Wagner family, shows up for Hannah May Rhoden's funeral. And the reason why, most people would assume is there are some ties between these 2 families. But the main tie is that Hannah and Jake had a relationship that goes way back, okay? And they also have a child together. They have a child together. So Jake and Hannah, in 2010, they met when she was only 13, and he was 17 years old. I'm not out for victim blaming or bashing victims or anything, but I just want to say that is really just wrong in so many ways, and that doesn't change what happened. I don't think that, because it doesn't mean you're a murderer. But I want to put it out there as a mother to a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old that is just way too young. And apparently Hannah Rhoden's family was okay with it, I guess, because the families go way back and they knew each other.
Yeah. Right. And that's probably what it is. It's not some stranger guy or kid at 17. They've probably known this kid since he was yay tall.
Right.
So it wasn't so much as a stranger that he was 17. But,
right.
The mentality is not the mentality of a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old is just not the same.
Right. And you know what? Let's just say this too, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because I know that Dana, fell in love with Chris Sr., but they were also very, very young. And it is possible that, it's just something that goes on in that family. They meet somebody right away, they fall in love, and they just get married early. I don't know. But, so they began dating when she was 13. And by 2012, she moved into the Wagner residence to live with Jake and his family. That would have made her only 15. So that's still early, but okay. Mom and dad were okay with it, right? So ultimately, Hannah and Jake ended up having a child together in 2013. She was 16 when she gave birth. And it was Sophia or Sophie. Now I'm like drawing a blank. It's either Sophia or Sophie.
Remember.
I think it's Sophia.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's now living with the Wagners. And little by little, it starts coming out that Jake is controlling, abusive, jealous. She wasn't allowed to go out anywhere.
She was like saying it to people. Everyone, certain people or family members like that. She's finding him to be possessive.
Very possessive
of what she does.
And I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to talk a little bit about Jake's mother. So Jake's mother is Angela, and she had a really rough childhood. She was abused as a child, and when she also married young. She married Billy Wagner very young, and she's also exhibited controlling behaviors, jealousy, manipulation, things like that, really wanting to have full control over her children. She homeschooled her kids, and homeschool kids, they get a bad rap. I really believe that. They get a bad rap, and they're homeschooled, no wonder why. I mean, I homeschool my kids, but I'm not an absolute tyrant like I think this woman is.
Well, this woman is like definitely a helicopter mom.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't even call it, I think that's too nice of a word for her.
Probably. She's probably even more.
Because what is your definition?
She's probably even more.
what is the definition of a helicopter mom for you?
Well, in that Peacock series,
Documentary.
they were saying, they were saying that it's like some people who came on and spoke about it said that, it was always her way. You know what I mean? It was always, the way she wanted it, and her house was perfect. She everything had to be perfect. So I just think like, helicopter mom is just somebody who just hovers and makes sure everything's like like set, and I just think that she was like that.
And I am so guilty of that. So what makes me any different than her? I mean, because helicopter mom to me means worrywart, everything just so, making sure that your children are safe and worried that go ahead.
They don't step out of line. Yeah, that they don't step out of line, that they stay nice and steady, which is probably why Diane probably thought it was okay, because she knows the family and she knows Angela, and Angela.
Oh, you mean Dana?
Dana.
Hannah's.
Dana. Oh, sorry, Rhoden. Dana. That's probably why it's probably why she didn't mind her living there, because she knows that Angela keeps her house ship shape. You know what I mean? And her kids they listen. I mean, maybe.
Maybe, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, Angela was all about, and I also, it's been said that Jake was her favorite. That's an awful thing to say, because I don't think any parent should ever say one child is a favorite, but people said in interviews,
I agree,
that Jake was her favorite, was her baby boy. And, and he ended up modeling her behavior even through his youth. I mean, friends would come over, they'd go four-wheeling, hunting, fishing together, and he would go out on the lake with them or go four-wheeling with them. And even those other kids would be like, half the time Jake wouldn't want to go, he'd want to be inside, and he was just finicky, and he was a lot more like Angela. And then some of the friends even said that he was a pain in the, and he's controlling as well. So, Angela, if she disapproved of you, you couldn't come near her children. One girl said on the documentary, I felt like I had to go get a background check or a blood test done or something like that just to be around her children. You're still freezing up a little bit. I hope.
I remember that.
I'm happy that you're still here, though, that you're not, that nothing's happening, but something's weird going on.
Well, I'm not checking anything. Let's put it that way.
Right. So, also want to put out there that at the same time that Hannah was living in the house with the Wagners, George had a wife named Tabitha, and they had a child. Bullvine is the name. Okay. Very interesting name. And she is a big deal to me, and I'm thinking there's going to be a part 2 to this, because there's so much more during the trial that we find out, and I'm going to want to really dig into that. So I'm going to save her for later, but it's important to know that George also had a wife that lived there, and I know Hannah and Tabitha did not like each other. They didn't get along, and that was because they were both competing for Angela's approval. Okay. So, yes. Okay, so she eventually gets sick of it.
Interesting.
Hannah gets really sick of it, and then she breaks up with him. She moves back to her mother's home, Dana. Okay. So then when she moves back, she starts dating somebody named Charlie Gilly, who's the brother of Hannah Gilly. And Hannah Gilly is engaged to Frankie, and she perished in the massacre, unfortunately. She dated Charlie Gilly.
Right.
That didn't last long. Then she began dating somebody named Corey Holdren. That didn't last long. And then she also, during all this, was continuing to allegedly sleep with Jake on and off. So by the time she got pregnant...
I didn't hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's true.
I didn't hear that. Yeah.
So she was...
Yeah. I hear you.
She was with all three. And whatever her reasons are, I don't know. But it's so confusing, because when she gets pregnant, she does not know whose baby it is. So that's, and Jake didn't know if it was his baby, but he wanted it to be his baby. Okay. So he looks at, like, what's crazy? It's like, at least in my day growing up, like if you're dating somebody and then you break up and then that person goes off and gets, gets somebody pregnant or gets pregnant, you would think that would make the person mad. Well, it did not make Jake mad. It actually, he looked at it as his opportunity to get her back. He said to her that, first of all, I'm going to assume I'm the dad. Whether I am or not, it doesn't matter, though. Come back to me and I will take care of both of them. Which is actually,
Wow.
let me just say, pretty big of him. You know, like, there are not a lot of men out there that would say that. And I'm not trying, like, I think Jake Wagner is not a good person.
But I think that's part, right, but I think that's part of trying to be
Manipulative.
Possessive. Yeah, manipulative,
Yeah.
possessive. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I have to say to get you back. And it doesn't matter. I'm sure. I mean, it seems like you like kids anyway. So,
Well,
maybe it's true.
His focus was Sophia, because one of the things he said to Hannah when he was trying to convince her, I mean, he was calling her, leaving her messages. It was not only, I'll take care of you. Come back, you'll have a home. I'll take care of both of these children, whether that second child is mine or not. But he also said, you have to do this for Sophia because she needs to grow up with her sibling. And that was his main motivation. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I think his main motivation is that he wanted to be in Sophia's life all the time, not just weekends.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So, guess what? What do you think she said? What do you think she said to that? They already said it was on Peacock. Okay. What do you think she said? She refused. She said, no, I'm sorry. She was and a couple people described her as like this really cool chick that didn't take no crap from anybody. And she had her mind made up that she was going to live her life and she wasn't going to have anybody control her. And this family's not going to control me. And you're not going to control me. And I'm going to move on. So she didn't go back. She ended up giving birth.
Yeah.
And then 4 days later, she's dead in the massacre. Okay. So, go ahead.
Are you going to say about what she texts?
No, I was going to do that a little later. Oh, or not later, but I was going to do that in part 2. So, but do you have a copy of them? I mean, I could pull them up afterwards if we have time. I definitely want to go through all of them.
I don't have any copy,
but okay. In a nutshell, she did several things. She went on Facebook and indirectly was talking to him because she never actually says Jake. But I know she shared a song that was about domestic abuse. Okay. And then she wrote some things on Facebook about you'd have to kill me before I'd give up custody of my child. Because he got angry.
She actually wrote that in a text.
Right, she wrote it in a text.
Yes.
But then I think, did she write it on Facebook too?
Either it was Facebook Messenger or an actual text, but that was the quote that led police to look more towards Jake.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, it was
because they were looking for something.
There is a lot of, but I think there was a collective amount of stuff going on, and that was one of them, though. But yes, you're right. Absolutely.
Well, according to the Peacock one, they were saying that was that when they discovered that, it felt like, okay, let's focus here now. Like, let's focus here more. So,
yeah,
because they had a lot going on. You know what I mean?
Hi, Anna. Saw you there. Okay, so
I don't see Anna. Okay.
She's there. Okay, so 4 days later, she dies after she gives birth. Okay, I want to just talk about 2 other connections with the 2 families. Billy Wagner and Chris Rhoden Sr. were friends, and they were friends for a long time. They have a history of drug activity together, trafficking, as well as cockfighting. No, they had a cockfighting ring.
Yeah, I believe it.
I believe
it, yeah.
They had a cockfighting ring. And apparently, they were so competitive about the cockfighting, about their roosters.
Which cock won?
I don't even want to say the word, right? It's roosters, right? Am I correct? Roosters beating each other up.
They were like, my cock is gonna beat yours any day. Yeah.
All right. Wait, I don't hear you. Okay, there you are. Okay, you say that word. I'll say rooster.
Okay.
Just because.
So anyway, so they didn't do that
their
anymore,
roosters were doing better at times, and then the other family's roosters were doing better, and then I'll say cockfighting. The cockfighting competition was intense, and it really, really, I think they were pissed at each other a lot because of that. Okay, and then George, the fourth, and we're just gonna say George because honestly, the dad is a George too, but we call him Billy. Okay.
Right.
George grew up with Frankie. Okay. Frankie
they
ended
were
up
like
being,
thick as thieves.
Yeah, thick as thieves, but not later because Frankie ended up being best friends with that Corey guy that she dated, that Hannah dated, the second boy. That didn't work out.
No, but on Peacock, they were the woman. I don't know which one was saying it, but they said that they fished all the time together, and they were actually like hanging out just right before. Like they said that they were together all the time. Yes. And it could have been all three of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
But
the baby ended up not being Jake's, the second baby. And you know
whose was it? Do we know?
Yes, I heard it today, and now I've forgotten because they both start with a C. Now I'm not so positive. I want to say that it was Charlie Gillies' baby.
Really?
The first guy. If I'm wrong, correct me. You know what? I'll just look it up real quick. Talk to her.
Talk about keeping it in the group.
Yeah, it's a little too close for comfort for me. But I will have to watch the documentary. Yes, you do need to watch the documentary.
It's so good. It goes pretty fast, but it's 3 sessions. It's really good. It's interesting. And honestly, you don't even have to like watch it. Just put your earbuds in, or just put it on the speaker, and you can listen to it.
Yes.
But it's actually really good.
Okay, it was. It's not Jake Wagner. I know it's not Jake Wagner. I found out today, and now I don't know where my source is, and I don't want to like waste any time.
Okay, we'll come back to it. Okay.
All right. So on April 26th, while they were looking on the property of the Rhoden property, they found cannabis operation going on. They had like multiple areas.
Big one.
Yeah, there was huge one. Yeah,
big one.
And it was like three different areas, I think, and it was just pot everywhere. Pot.
Yes, it was a pretty big outfit. They had, I wouldn't call it a warehouse, but they had like a really extended shed.
Yeah,
that had like layers upon layers.
Let me show you guys. Let me just show you guys a couple of things. This is my Rhoden family thing here. Okay, here's the property, guys. That's not the greatest picture, so I'm sorry it's blurry, but this is the Rhoden property. And you can see lots of buildings and structures, right?
Right.
And we also, there's another view. I don't know which building's what, to be honest with you, but there's the red barn. Yeah. Just to give you an idea. And while I'm here, let me go through a couple of these. This is Dana and Chris when they were younger.
That's Hannah's.
That's Hannah's mom and dad. Hannah, Frankie, and Chris Jr.'s mom and dad. Yeah. And then on this is a shot from the funeral. And then this shot just like really cuts a knife through me. There's the Wagners walking into Hannah's funeral. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, and I heard there was suspicion.
So Billy's right there in the front. Billy's in the front.
Yeah.
The
hat is Jake.
Yeah, and the one behind is the brother George. He's the other one that went to court.
Yeah,
was convicted. Yeah.
Yep. There's the gravestone for the 5 of them. Absolutely beautiful. Just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
This is them when they were little. The 3 kids when they were little. And
remember those pictures?
Yeah. Oh, I know, right? And here's Hannah. She looks like a tough little chick. She kind of gives me, don't mess with me vibes, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that.
She almost looks a little bit like Hannah Montana, real quick.
Yeah, a little bit. She's a very pretty girl. Very pretty girl. So, okay. So they found the all that pot growing there. And then they found cockfighting equipment. This also led investigators to consider possible ties with Mexican drug cartels because of all that pot that they found.
Right.
Another thing is they were known to set multiple homes on fire for insurance money and property, like cars, farming equipment, things like that. And then they would like exchange hands of property. Like Jake would own something next so that it wouldn't look suspicious that Billy owned something that burned down again. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right.
So they would put ownership into Jake's name. Then something would burn down with his name on it. And then they'd go and they'd burn some, and then they put in George's name, and then something burns down. And then how they thought that they wouldn't tie that together.
Get caught, right.
Beyond me.
But they never did get caught on that though.
No, they did not. Okay. So, Dana Rhoden's father had made a note that there was a lack of forced entry, suggesting that whoever did the killing was familiar with them. Now, Johnny doesn't really know this case, but he watched some of the documentary last night, and immediately he said the fact that there are the three children, all under 3 years old, the babies and the 3-year-old are alive is very telling because they can't be witnesses, right? And wiping everybody out means there won't be a witness, right?
Right.
So that's kind of common sense, but
well, the kids won't remember. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
like they wouldn't.
I read today that the 3-year-old has nightmares. So the 3-year-old probably retained something. I mean, that's his dad playing zombie. Yeah. He probably remembers some of it. I don't know.
Right.
It's just
I would agree to that because I think anybody who goes through like stress at that age, how do you not remember something like that? And maybe he was a little closer to 4. Or he remembers bits and pieces, which is probably worse because that's probably what he's gathering in his dreams. Maybe he's just seeing bits and pieces of stuff, so it doesn't make sense,
Right. Yeah. They towed the vehicles from the Rhoden property, and they relocated all the mobile homes that were on the property for investigation. So during the investigation, there was many different developments. They determined that there was more than one shooter because of different shell casings from different firearms
and 2 different shoe sizes.
Yeah, I was just gonna go to the shoe prints. Were in blood. Matched shoes available only at Walmart. Also, the treads on the shoe were so brand new that it's assumed that they were bought specifically just to commit the crime. They were size 10 and a half and 11. Okay.
Right.
Billy Wagner was coming out of Kroger one day, and because they were now suspicious of the Wagners, they questioned him, and he denied all involvement. And if you listen to it, it's on YouTube. You can go ahead and listen to it. That interview, he didn't really do himself any favors. He was just kind of sketchy and just trying to get the focus off of him,
Yeah, which is a flag for police officers when you're trying to tell them, oh, did you look into this? Or it could have been that,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Wagner family moves to Kenai, Alaska in 2017.
Which I thought was crazy, by the way.
I know. Well, apparently they had been talking for years long before the murders that they've always wanted to go to Alaska. So that was in their favor, actually. Yes, I'm almost there, Anna. Yeah. You'll find out. It's coming up. So they sold their property and left, and obviously they were feeling the heat because there was so much suspicion.
What year did it?
2017.
What year did they leave?
2017.
So a year later.
Yes.
So a year later?
Yes.
Okay.
A year later. So they moved to Alaska. And what's really telling is once they got to Alaska and they got into a new residence, both Angela and Billy each lost a parent. They died. And there were 2 funerals, and they didn't go back to Ohio for them. And that's their parents. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's,
I wonder why.
Because they had so much, they didn't want to go back to Ohio because they were being looked at. So they were trying to run from the investigation. So going back to Ohio would be stupid of them if they committed the murder.
Yeah, but it would only show normal. I mean, you should look as normal as possible, right?
But
yeah.
they didn't go back, which they thought was suspicious, because that should be an automatic definite that they would go back to Ohio. They lived off the grid. Jake and George took a job driving trucks together. Actually, I think they rode side by side, and they were the ones making all the money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they start going to this little church, right, in Alaska. And Jake sees this girl named Beth Elizabeth. They call her Beth. And she's this innocent, very fragile girl, kind of like introverted, very...
She's beautiful, too.
Oh, very beautiful. Just very quiet.
Like natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quiet, introverted girl, and he just falls in love with her. And one of the things that he fell in love with is that he saw her with the younger children at the church, and immediately he was thinking, for my daughter, I want a mother figure for my daughter. And he introduced Beth to Sophia, Hannah and Jake's daughter, and immediately was like in love with her because she just bonded with Sophia so well.
Right.
So pretty quickly, it did not take long, he asked her to marry him, and she said yes. So they got married. And
she was young too. Like, I think she got married at 20 or 19.
You know what? I don't know her
remember.
age. I didn't catch that. But here's the problem that starts happening while they're in Alaska. Angela starts controlling Beth and starts doing all the things she did to Hannah and Tabitha. You know, a lot of the same things happened to Tabitha as well, George's wife, who at this point
ex-wife
now. But a lot of things with sexual abuse, accusing Beth of sexually abusing Sophia. Okay. Which is going to make me back up for a second, because we're going to learn and find out that before the murders, after Hannah left, Angela decided that they had to go file for custody of Sophia. And the way they would do that is to go to the courts and say that multiple people in the Rhoden family is sexually abusing Sophia. So we need 100% full custody. And when that wasn't working out, that also, a murder took place after that, with the Rhodens getting killed. So this woman who was abused herself uses the sexual abuse card, not only with Hannah and her family, but now is doing it with Jake's new wife. Yeah. And saying that you're sexually abusing Sophia. Now, all the grandchildren of Angela's, so Sophia and even Tabitha and George's children, they're not even allowed to sleep in their own room or in with their parents. They have to sleep with Grandma Angela. And occasionally he would let Sophia sleep in the room with Jake and Beth, as long as Jake was there. And that's because she was telling Jake, I'm not letting her sleep with Beth while you're out on the road trucking with your brother, because I think she's sexually abusing Sophia. So, I mean, it's just really sick.
I mean, Angela was sexually abused, so she's on high alert, and she just thinks everybody is, It's terrible. It's really such a shame, but go ahead. Sorry.
But the depths, this woman reminds me of Donna Adelson, because of her wanting to micromanage her kids' lives and her grandchildren's lives, and the control factor and all that. Did Donna Adelson ever say anything about... She never tried to accuse Dan Markello of sexually abusing the boys, right? That never came up, right? Okay. No. Different case. But...
well, I mean, if anything is good, be the same. It's just that they're both, controlling, or try to be controlling of situations, not necessarily of the same situation, but just any situation. They're just trying to be very controlling.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Now, I wanted to show you guys real quick. This is the Wagners. I never showed them. Top left corner is Billy. Oh. Top right corner is Angela. Top left corner is George. And bottom right is Jake Wagner. Those are the four Wagners. Billy's kind of scary looking to me. Yeah. I look at him and I'm a little scared.
Honestly, the only one that looks nice there is, I mean, to me, is I don't think George is scary. I think he looks like a really
No,
nice
George looks
guy.
sweet, and Jake is
But
not
Jake,
exactly bad looking. I think
no, but
Jake's
he looks scary. I mean,
there. He
I think he
does,
looks,
yeah,
yeah. Like if he gets
yeah.
mad, he doesn't look like I want to be around.
I wonder if wait. Let me see. Do I have another picture of them? I have Jake and Sophia. There's Jake and
Aw, it's cute.
Sophia. Here's Jake in the courthouse. It's not a very good picture of
Yes.
him. I apologize. And this is the
No,
Wagner home in Ohio. Okay.
cute. Yeah.
It is cute. Now,
Yeah, it is very cute.
let me add to that. They are a wealthy family because of Billy's mother, Frederica. Frederica owns the Flying something, some stable with horses. She's a horse breeder, and she has like 1,600 acres, 1,600 acres of land, and it never was clarified. But because they can take four-wheelers and ride through the grandmother's land and get
Land.
to where that red house was, tells me that they're probably, living on the land somewhere. The
Right.
Wagners.
Well, it was a lot of acres, I'm sure.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
Frederica woman, she also took some heat as being possibly part of it, but she got off. Like she was charged originally and then they let her go.
Oh,
Just
wow.
nothing stuck.
Okay.
But keep that in
Right,
mind
right.
because she still might come up later.
Yeah.
So, okay, so they're in Alaska and this thing is getting really bad for Beth. And there's a lot of recordings of calls. I'm going to play them in part 2 because those were during George's trial. So, but how do we get to the point that there's a trial at all? So, they decide Alaska's too expensive, and they don't want to stay there anymore, and they don't want to go back to
So
Ohio.
it's so funny. How is Alaska too expensive?
Yeah, that was
It,
news to me that Alaska
yeah,
was expensive.
I mean, maybe because like maybe food items were more money because you have to be shipped in and whatnot.
Apparently,
But
they had millions. I think they were millionaires, or if it's just Frederica that's the millionaire. I don't know. They said that Frederica was wealthy, but Billy didn't necessarily have that money. He just was
right,
living. Yeah,
that's true. But like to sell your property, or maybe they didn't own the property and they just left with their savings,
I don't know.
But they weren't making enough. Whatever that, wasn't
Yeah,
enough to
it was
live off
pretty
the
quick.
land.
It was pretty
Yeah.
quick that
It
they
was only
left.
less than a year, wasn't it? Or just a
It
year?
was quick. I have the date.
Okay.
Yeah, it is less than a year. Okay.
Right.
So they don't want to go back to Ohio and they have no more money or not enough money to continue living in Alaska. So they temporarily go to Missouri, and I don't know why. Maybe there's a relative there. While they're in Missouri, by this point, the police is on them and has been trailing them, surveillance. They are bugging phones, things like that. They go over to Missouri and then they grab Angela and they question her. And when they ask her about the receipt they found, because, okay, let me back up. Before they went to Missouri, the police did go to the Wagner old residence in Ohio after they sold it. And before the
Right.
new owners could move in, the police came and said, "Can we search the grounds before you move in?" So they
Right.
searched the grounds and they found a receipt to Walmart, $13.95 for these shoes, times 2. And they go to Walmart and it matches perfectly to these shoes.
Right. I mean, like, why would you keep that receipt?
What an idiot. I know. And it
Like,
was in like a
I don't
special
get it.
box or something. It was in like a special box, I heard. Like it was in a
Yeah.
weird spot.
Yeah, because apparently they sold the house a year after the murders. So, and they bought the shoes right before the murder. Why are you keeping the receipt?
I don't know.
I just don't get it.
Idiots.
Yeah.
So they go to Walmart to match up the shoes and everything, but then they pull the video from the famous video everybody has to go through, right? When those double doors open with your cart. Don't you know by now from all these crime shows that they get you the minute the doors open, you're on video, and there's Angela with her cart.
Yeah,
Okay?
because on the receipt is the date and the
It's the date.
time.
It's the
Yeah.
date. Yes,
Yeah.
it is the same exact date, and there she is. Her mug is right there. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Go to a
it's
garage sale
terrible.
next time. Right? Go to a garage sale and get your crime spree clothes. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, just throw the damn receipt out. I just don't get why would you ever want to keep
She said
like
trophy. For a trophy. Yeah, but at the cost of
oh
going to jail for the rest of your life? I don't know if I would do that.
God. I don't know.
I don't know if I would do that. Okay. So they ask her and they nail her in an interrogation room and they're like, we've got you on video. And then she goes, all right, I would like a lawyer. So as soon as that happens, the crap is hitting the fan. And then Beth starts freaking out and getting scared. So she calls a family member back in Alaska secretly. I don't know if she went down the street, went to a store or whatever. She gets on the phone and she calls somebody and she says, please help me. I need to get away from these people. I'm scared for my life. They're going to kill me.
Wow.
So somebody sent her like money for a bus ticket or something like that. And she gets out of Dodge. Right. So she leaves Jake immediately. In fact, I think she might still legally be married to him, or maybe by now they're divorced, but she was married to him for a long time still.
So she went to Missouri with them.
She went to Missouri, but she never made it back to Ohio. No. Okay. So they're in Missouri. Okay. Okay. So as I said, the police are bugging their phones. Okay. And this is crazy because, wouldn't you assume that maybe if you're like starting to get nervous, you've already been questioned by police, they already have you on video at Walmart, blah, 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 that maybe you shouldn't be detail oriented on the phone, but maybe they're bugging you.
Yeah.
There's all these calls, okay, discussing details, the planning of the murders. All of them are indirect, but I mean, it's so obvious. You know what I'm saying? How to get rid of evidence is being spoken about. Growing paranoia, arguments. Okay, on the next episode,
they're all arguing with each other.
Oh yes,
Terrible.
And if you heard the arguments, like even if my family gets into an argument, like it is, this is like, who argues like this? It is violent, angry, nasty. The way they curse at each other, it's just horrible. She's instructing her sons and her husband on what to do and say on the calls. Well, if you get questioned this, and we better end this call right now. They could be listening. And there's like all this crazy stuff going on the phone. Like idiots. You've already been recorded. It doesn't matter what you say at this point. Right? So they get arrested November 12th, 2018. Okay. All four of them on the same day get arrested.
And they're all in different areas, right?
They're all in different areas.
Yeah, because two of them were trucking at the time.
I think so, and I don't have as much details. I just know Billy was like, they threw him on the ground. And I think they went after him first because he's the bigger, more robust-looking guy. So,
right, maybe.
Yeah, and then they got Angela at home, and I don't remember Jake and George. So if you're saying they were in the truck.
Yes, two of them were in the truck. So all I know is that when they were all arrested, they were all in different jail cells in different counties.
Yes, very incriminating, Anna. Mm-hmm. They're not all there mentally. Yep, I agree with you. Okay, so the arrests again are November 12th, 2018, all four of them. But guess what? Jake comes forward and pleads guilty on April 22nd, 2021. Okay, then. But go ahead.
No, but he pleads guilty thinking that it would. Okay, go ahead. You wanted to say it differently?
Yeah, I wasn't there yet because they kind of they both do it together. So Angela starts talking as well with the police at the same time, and this is so important because I'll say it in a second. But Jake and Angela pled guilty, asking that they plead guilty if they take the death penalty off the table for all four of them. Okay. And then in return for that, they would plead guilty and testify. Both of them, Jake and Angela, will plead guilty to take the death penalty off the table for all four of them. And Jake and Angela will come and testify against George and Billy, which is really crazy, like shocking, because it's like saying, here, I'm throwing you a bone. I'm saving your life because I love you, but I'm going to go to court and I'm going to tell everybody what you did. And George and Billy say they're innocent, and they're right. So now that's telling to me before I tell you what happens, because George is the first one on trial. I think it's so ironic that Jake and Angela pled guilty only a couple months apart. It's it seems like they were in cahoots together. But they did this together.
Mm.
And like it goes back
But there's
to
no way.
No, because his attorney could speak to her attorney.
Oh,
And
okay.
right. And maybe
That's true.
are you allowed to have jailhouse calls amongst each other? I know you can have a jailhouse call with somebody outside. Can you speak to another person? If you're in jail, can you as a person in jail talk to another person that's in jail?
I mean, I don't know. Let's Google it. Let's see.
All right,
I have
you
no
Google
idea.
that. You Google that. And while you're Googling that, let me just say that it speaks to back then when everyone said that Angela's favorite child was Jake. And I almost feel like she didn't care about what happened with Billy and George. And let me just save Jake, mine and Jake's butt, basically. You know what I mean? Well,
Yes, inmates are usually allowed to make phone calls to other inmates,
okay.
but there's
Well, yeah, wait.
restrictions.
Donna and Charlie talked together. That's another case. But Donna and
Yeah.
Charlie from the Markel case.
But she wasn't arrested yet, or was she?
No, I'm saying, do
When
they
they
talk
when-
now? I think they do. I think they
Oh.
talk now, jail to
Oh,
jail.
I don't know.
Right.
Right. I don't know.
All right, so I just think it's so telling because it's almost like Angela and Jake secured their deal, which ended up helping the other two. I don't know. Just the fact that it was those two and not any other combination, like George and Angela or Billy. It was Jake and Angela, who I think are just, they're the ones that are thick as thieves to me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
George goes on
Well,
trial. Go ahead.
Well, Jake claims that that he did it so that they can walk free. You know, what I mean, that he's gonna claim that he did it all, and that
No, not
that
walk free. They're in prison for the rest of their lives, no parole.
right. But didn't he claim that he killed them all? That he acted by himself and killed them all.
He said that he killed them all, and George and Billy were part of the plan. George, Billy, and Angela were all part of the planning, and they
So he
went
did
out
say
there.
that. Okay.
Oh yeah, he says
Oh, I
George was
missed
there.
it. Okay.
George, in fact, was supposed to, and that in part 2 we'll get into this. But Jake said that George was supposed to do the first killing, the very first shot, and he went up there and couldn't do it. And then Jake said, "Move aside," and Jake did it all. And Billy did shoot one person. I think Billy took care of Chris Sr. I think. I'm gonna double check that.
Yeah.
So, George went on trial, and in part 2, we will talk about his trial because there was so much stuff that came out. But he was found guilty. To answer your question, Anna, he was found guilty on November 30th, 2022. And now the last one left reminds me so much of Donald Adelson, but Billy's the last one left waiting in jail for his trial. The thing is, the guy keeps getting lucky and he keeps getting pushed back. And now everybody was hoping it was going to be this coming September or November, October, November area. But now it's delayed again until 2025. And I'm not sure why they keep doing that.
Yeah, I know.
So
That is kind of
a couple things. I did my Reddit quotes again because I really love the Reddit quotes because sometimes there's people on there that say they live in the area or they're friends with, and that's why I go to Reddit all the time. And again, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Before I do that,
okay.
My personal opinion of the motive is most definitely to gain custody of Sophia. Because in her mind, she believed that child was being sexually abused.
Molested. Right.
Right. And that's pretty much it. Some people think it's more than that maybe there's a drug thing or the cockfighting thing. But I'm going to read some of these because they're really good. Okay. And Jocelyn will like it if you guys don't. Okay. So, there's a lot of them here. Somebody here wrote, "It was more than just a custody dispute. The grandmother has been sexually assaulted as a child, was obsessed with the idea that her granddaughter was being abused. She manipulated her son and grandson into believing it, and this was the motivation. She had a way of riling them up." Okay.
Yes. I'm sure.
The paternal family of the child, which is the Wagners, I don't know why they wrote it like that, but this person writes, "The paternal family of the child in question were rivals of the offender's family in cockfighting and had no property in the county. This made the child's grandfather extremely angry. Some say the 21-year-old targeted the 14-year-old intentionally to impregnate her. Now, this person has their facts wrong because
he wasn't 21 at the
no.
time.
Well, she was 13, he was 17 when they met. She got pregnant when she was 16.
16, yeah.
Right, and this person wrote. So, you know, you don't have your facts all straight. This next person, this is very local to me. In fact, it's very close. So who knows who it is? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it could be somebody like, you know,
Next
a
door
member
neighbor,
of the
you mean?
family that wants to remain anonymous. You know, you just never know. So
right.
I have watched this from the beginning. It was strange from the start, and just because I am from almost the same area doesn't mean I understand their way of life. These people were pure. Again, this is not me talking. This is somebody else.
Right.
These people were pure hillbilly trash. Look at how they lived. None of them had jobs except Dana, the Rhoden mom. They lived hand to mouth. Their places were absolute filth. Didn't look like they cleaned in some of the pictures I saw either. They lived hand to mouth. Okay, the Rhodens were perfectly fine with their 13, 14-year-old daughter living with and having sex with a 21-year-old. The Wags...
Well, he wasn't 21.
That's interesting, the Wags. The Wags were more like a cult. The grandma Freddie, also known as Frederica, has more money than God. She claims to be a church-going, God-fearing woman, but she has her hands in so many dirty dealings in Pike County, Lucasville, Piketon, etc., than anyone would ever think. She is a slumlord. Billy lived with her when the murders occurred, and you can't tell me she didn't know. Of course she did. Billy Wagner and Chris Rhoden Sr. were in the weed business together. They had large grow operations going on. The younger ones, Jake, Chris Jr., Frankie, and George, they were true menaces in that county. I truly believe George the son was trying to distance himself from them. The Wags controlled those boys and the wives and girlfriends. Angela even telling the boys and their wives and girlfriends when and how they should have sex. Not for pleasure, but for procreation only. That's true. That did come out in the trial. Yeah. Angela would go in George's room and make his wife leave and then rub his back and cuddle him. I believe it was Angela, Billy, and Jake at the murder scenes, not George. Angela wasn't going to let them go without her. She directed the whole thing. She held the other children while their parents were shot in the head, then placed them back on the beds of their dead parents. I do not believe George knew they were going to take it this far. They are wasting time with Billy's trial. So this person obviously wrote this before. Oh, no, they didn't. They wrote it recently. They are wasting their time with Billy's trial. He needs to be sentenced already. All of those surviving children are going to need lots of counseling, especially the one that this custody thing was over. She is about 12 now.
Wow.
Sophia.
Oh, she's 12 now?
Yep.
Wow. But you know what's crazy is that they did this all so that they can have custody of Sophia, but meanwhile she's probably living with, I don't know, some unknown relative. Who's she living with? Or who's watching? I mean, obviously everybody's in jail. Who's she living with?
I don't know.
They never
might
say.
Be in foster care. Okay.
Yeah, that's like that was better, you know?
Here's another one. Again, I don't know who this is. I just want to reiterate, this is like, you could take it or leave it. It's not necessarily the truth. It's just something I read that somebody wrote. Frankie Rhoden and Hannah Hazel Gilly. She also had her baby in bed with her when she was killed. The baby was between his parents on the bed. Both babies were not shot and in the same home as Frankie and Hannah Hazel. Frankie's other son, 4, that's not true, he was 3, was in the living room unharmed, and they killed all of the Rhodens because they were afraid if any of them lived, they would hunt them down and kill them. Probably true, because I heard you didn't want to mess with the Rhodens. These families did not get along at all. That was the first time I heard that, because I heard that they were friends and that they had a lot of inner circles with each other. These people are deep Southern Ohio country people. You just have to read about it. The dads of both families were involved in very bad stuff together. As for the 16-year-old, Chris Jr., at first they could not find him, so they thought he did it and ran off. They locked down the schools that day and had out APBs looking for him. Now, I believe this person. This is somebody who knows. Maybe their facts are not all straight, but they obviously live there. They found his body the next day when they moved the bed, and he was between the wall and the bed.
Wow. The next day? They didn't get to the same day?
Now, if anybody's listening right now and knows, can you vouch for that? Because it's never mentioned in the documentary, and I've never read it anywhere else. But if you're watching and you know, or you watch after we're over, just please comment and tell me, is that true?
Yeah.
Did they find him the next day? Because that's interesting. It boils down to the Wagners' entitlement to use homicide as a means of removing obstacles and maintaining control. In this case, their attempt was to gain full custody of Hannah Rhoden's eldest daughter. Frederica, this is a new one. Frederica Wagner, Billy's mother, and the family owned and operated the Flying W Farms horse and exotic animal breeding business.
Right, that's right.
Both Billy and Angela were convicted in 2012 in Ross County of receiving stolen property. Billy Wagner was also convicted of improper handling of a firearm in a motor vehicle in Portsmouth in 2001, and another case of receiving stolen property in Pike County in 2002.
Yeah, so he basically had a history.
Yeah, this person really knows stuff. So that's why I took it, because I want to hear from people that live over there, you know? Angela, the mother, was stated by one of her former daughters-in-laws to have run the house and interfered with her son's relationships and the parenting of grandchildren. Son George and Edward Jake were alleged to have arsoned their own home for $250,000 in insurance money. Jake, Hannah Rhoden's ex and the father of her oldest daughter, was questioned at his trial about his physical abuse and threats towards Hannah prior to the crime. And Jake also stated that he'd grown jealous when Hannah Rhoden dated other men. I can't speak today. When Hannah Rhoden dated other men after their breakup. Jake's ex-wife, Beth, whom he met and married in Alaska, also testified that she was terrified of the Wagners and that Angela had made an unfounded accusation about her molesting Jake's daughter, which I just went into. Okay. And then, here's another one. Should I keep going? These are good.
It's funny. I was just going to share what Tony wrote. Haddonfields and McCoys.
The Hatfield and McCoys. Yep.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So much like that. Okay. This person writes, this happened really close to me. I watched and read everything I could on this case. I watched George Wagner's trial as well. Angela and Jake pled guilty. Billy's trial's coming up this spring. What people aren't reading or forgot is that Billy's mom, Frederica, and Angela's mom, Rita Newscomb, were arrested and charged also. Rita admitted that she forged custody papers, writing it, notarizing it, so that Jake can go against Hannah Mae for custody of the daughter. Jake was trying to force Hannah Mae into giving him custody, and she said they would have to kill her. So they did. She writes, Jake shot Hannah Mae while she was nursing her four-day-old baby. She fell off the bed. He picked her up and then propped her up so the baby could nurse her.
Yeah.
This is so sick.
No, so that she could nurse the baby. Yeah.
Right, but she was dead. He propped her body up so that the baby could find the breast to eat.
Yeah. I mean, it still would work.
I still believe. I don't know. Does the milk dry up that fast? I have no idea.
No, that's what I'm saying. It would
we
still
should
work.
know as mothers. We should know the answer to this. Oh,
no, there's
fine. Go ahead.
I mean, listen, an hour later, maybe not, but at that moment, yeah.
You think there's still milk there? They would still work.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
ChatGPT.
I do.
I don't want to find humor in this case because this is such a horrible case, but I had to laugh for a second. Okay. This happened. Okay. Hold on. Now I got thrown off. Okay. I got it. She continues to write, I still believe that Frederica had more to do with this than she lets on. She claims to be, it's the same thing. She claims to be a devout Christian. And she didn't know anything. But Jake and Angela and George all said that they sat in her kitchen and made plans. And she was in all the conversations of murder. The boys had made a duck blind for her husband, Billy's dad, their grandpa, and used buckets of cement to hold it down in the water. And that's where Jake put the gun parts in the cement buckets and sank them into the pond.
Why not put the shoes and the damn receipt in that thing?
Right?
I mean, why?
Like, how
Why not?
stupid can you be? Yeah.
It says, yes, your body will continue to produce breast milk for 2 to 3 weeks after your. Oh,
What?
I read it wrong way. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
I
you read
read
it wrong?
I typed it in wrong. No, I typed it in wrong.
If you die, can you still breastfeed? Just write that.
Yeah.
It's so morbid. Anyway, they should have thrown the darn shoes in the bucket, just like you said. I mean, there were ugly ass shoes, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you couldn't use them afterwards. I'm sure there was blood on them.
Well, okay. All right, I got more from this person who claims to know a lot. And again, I don't know if it's true, y'all. It's all for you to decide. This person claims, when people say the Wagners were rich, it wasn't so much Billy's family as it was his mother and father. They owned thousands of acres and hundreds of rental properties in Pike County and adjoining counties. They were all so screwed up they didn't know whether to scratch their watch or wind their butt. And I'm talking about the Wagners and the Rhodens. See, I have a problem with that because they are dead. They cannot defend themselves. I just don't want to talk bad about them. Poor family. This person says they all had weed growing operations. The brother Kenneth, lived in a small travel trailer and did not have running water. Chris Sr. and cousin Gary didn't have running water either. So I was right. They were buildings. Jocelyn.
Yeah, okay. All right.
They were not by any means homes because they didn't even have running water. They probably didn't even probably didn't have bathrooms. They probably went in the woods.
Well, Hannah Gilly, right?
Hannah Gilly was
they
Frankie's
were
engaged.
Right, but they were in a mattress. They were in bed.
Yeah, I think the guys, I think Dana and Hannah Rhoden lived in a home that had running water. And so did Hannah and Frankie. Right. Okay. They all had weed growing operations. Brother Kenneth lived in a small, I said that already. If you look at the crime scene photos, this person writes, Frankie and Hannah Hazel Gilly's trailer was a mess. True. There was two. Trash and junk was everywhere. Not a clean. Okay, so what? They died. Okay, they had a messy house. Stuff and trash on the floors, counters, furniture. So what? You think, my God, how did they live like this and CPS not get involved? Okay, well, they didn't. So move on. They were all too worried about how to screw someone out of something than actual working. George and Jake were truck drivers when they came back from Alaska. The company allowed the cops to put bugs in the trucks. Oh, okay. To record the conversations the police met up with their employer to bug the trucks.
Right. This is a new employment in Missouri or the one in Alaska?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
No, the one in Ohio.
No, Missouri. When they got back from Alaska. So whoever they were working for when they got back. George and Jake were homeschooled by Angela. Okay, so what? Billy taught them their thieving ways. And all this because they wanted custody of that little girl. Well, how is that little girl going to feel when she's old enough to read about this? Her dad, uncle, grandma, and grandpa killed her other family for her. I personally hope she has her name changed and is never told, whatever that means. She will end up sexually molested like her, which will make precisely 0 sense. Yeah, okay. That's it. Those are the ones I grabbed. It sounded like people that were from the area talking. They might not be. I don't know. But one thing I love about Reddit is I sometimes find some pretty credible things I read on there. And it's like, ooh, you sound like you're related to this family. Or you sound like you know the victim.
You sound like the next door neighbor.
You sound like the next door neighbor.
You sound like you dated him.
Probably one of the ex-girlfriends of Jake or something. Yeah. She's all like pissed.
Right.
But why talk bad about the road? And, oh, well, because maybe she was jealous of Hannah at one point. Who knows? But anyway, y'all, they did it. They did it. But Billy, innocent until proven guilty. I mean, guilty until proven innocent. Whatever you want to say. But he still has his trial, and I don't know how he's going to get out of it. He
they were saying They were saying they don't have anything actually linking him to it other than the son saying that he was. But George still claims that he's innocent. That he was, he's tried, he's found guilty, but he still claims that he's innocent. So unless he comes up to say anything, but there's actually nothing truly linking him. Whereas George, his credit card was linked to a couple purchases. Mm-hmm. So that was one thing,
Yeah.
And the shoes, but the shoes weren't Billy's, right? No, the shoes were Jake and George's. They weren't Billy's shoes. So they don't have anything.
They don't know whose shoes they were. They just know they were
worn.
They do. No, they know they were worn at the murder, but they don't know who had what on. How do you know Billy wasn't wearing one of them?
Because I don't think that was his size, is what I'm saying. I think it was Jake and George's shoe. I have to look that up. Let's look that up for next time. I'll look it up.
Definitely, for sure. Okay, so that is our episode for today. And honestly, I'm not done with this case because I really do want to talk about the Wagner trial, because there is some really good footage I want to watch together. And especially, honestly, I could just watch Tabitha and Beth because they are interesting. They say it all for me. They're witnesses. Yeah. They could have been dead. I mean, they could have been killed too, right? So thankfully they got away. And I know Tabitha's remarried. And I got to find out what's going on with Beth. But when I work on the episode, we'll look into all that for next week and stuff.
Okay.
So.
Sounds good.
Did you have a good day?
Well, don't forget to like our video and subscribe, by the way.
Oh, yes, if you're watching, please subscribe, share, and all that good stuff.
And like the video. That'd be great.
Yes, like the video, please.
There you go.
Okay. We'll talk later about your day. I wanted to see how your day was, but then I realized, it's getting late. So, okay.
It's late. No, yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Well, thanks, everybody. I hope you guys love this case. It's really good. And, of course, if there's another case you want to talk about, we can. Just give us a shout out.
Yes.
We'll follow it up.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to talk. Real quick, just an update on Karen's
Reed
trial.
Karen Reed.
So basically, oh, you did?
A little bit. I know what's going on with the motions that they're making and that the judge is deciding.
Right. So basically that's it. So the defense put in a motion so basically when they came out with the whole mistrial, usually the lawyers say, or the judge will say, what did you mistrial on, which count? And there was no specification to which count was considered a mistrial. They just all, and then afterwards, the defense didn't ask which one. The prosecutor didn't ask afterwards. The judge never asked the jurors. It just went on. And then 5 jurors had contacted the defense saying, "Oh, by the way, we voted not guilty on 1 and 3.
I know.
They had the mistrial on 2. So anyway, they went to court Friday, and basically the defense made a great argument to why the judge should call in the jurors one by one and ask them, And of course, he had good reasons to why you should, but in all reality, that's not how it really gets done.
I don't think it's going to fly. I don't think it's going to fly, man, but I do think that the jury was confused on their instructions because they were told not to fill out the form until they knew fully what their decision was. So I think what they did was they were like, well, she's not guilty on these 2 things, but we still have to decide this. And because they couldn't decide this and they were confused, they just said, well, we can't decide because you told us we have to decide on all 3.
Right.
So,
and of course, the defense said that, and of course, prosecution said, well, we didn't, nobody had a problem with it when they actually submitted it. If you had a problem with it, that was the time to address it. But now because that they're coming in to play saying that they are, but in all reality, I mean, obviously it's a slippery slope, right? Because you don't want to open up this procedure where it happens all the time, right? Where you're able to, because this is that wouldn't be something they do all the time, is call jurors to come in and stay.
Never happens.
So Right. It's really not part of our system. So it's a slippery slope. I can see her saying yes, and I could see her saying no, because in all reality, if that's true, like, why would you want to prosecute them, a prosecutor on the same stuff again? Like, don't waste my tax dollars. Let's just, they've already decided, and I would take that at their face value. But
Yeah.
of course, the Commonwealth is saying, well, this isn't like, a couple of days later. We're talking about 6 weeks since the verdict, and they've had a lot of outside influences. So I mean, they both came to the court with good
What do you think they're going to
comebacks.
do? Do you think they're going to
I think Judge Bev Cannoli is going to say no.
Cannoli?
That's our last name, yeah. Judge Cannoli,
It's
yeah.
Cannoli. Hey, Judge Cannoli. Okay.
Judge Bev.
Judge Cannoli.
Yeah, I think she's gonna.
All
I
right.
think she's gonna say no. I wish she'd say yes, but I think she's gonna say no.
Yeah, I think it's a big fat no is what I think it is, because for them
Yeah.
to do that, it's going to change our whole justice system. You can't do that. They claim, they
Well,
said mistrial. That's
I
it.
mean, there was legit points that the defense brought up that she could use, and decide. So it's not a total lost cause. It is possible. It's the idea is plausible. It's just something we don't do often, and it has to fit certain parameters. So
Yeah,
it's possible. I just don't think she's going to allow it.
I agree. And
Yeah.
we'll find out. Do they have any idea when they'll come back? I mean, it could take a long time, right?
I mean,
Weeks?
I follow this one guy, and he said it could take really 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and that'd be quick if she said anything within
Meanwhile,
a
she's
week or
calling
two.
every judge she knows. What should I do? I would be like, I wouldn't want that decision on me. All right,
Yeah.
love. All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thanks for
And we
joining.
hope to see you next time. Oh, I'll put up my next episode soon. I'll schedule it and I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
But I definitely want to do part 2. And there's another case I got brewing up my sleeve too.
Ooh, what is it?
You'll see.
Okay.
Actually, I'll
All right,
just tell you,
everybody.
it's Wade Wilson. Wade Wilson.
Wade, should I look? I should be listening
Does
for
anybody
him.
know who this is?
Wade Wilson. Is it new or old? Wade Wilson.
It kind of just happened. He was, it's within recent, and
Okay.
I've got a little hint for you. There is a connection to Charlie Adelson with this guy. It's the weirdest thing.
Really?
Yes, and I swear I did not pick it for that reason. But anyway, Wade
I don't
Wilson
know.
is a quick trial, 3 days. It's over, and it's shocking as can be. And I really want to talk about a particular topic more, less about the actual crime, but about women who, I want to have a discussion with you about women, these women out there that fall in love with prisoners and write them and want to get married to them and fall over him and give them all their money. We need to talk about that. Like, what is up with you, sister? That you could, like, what is the psychology behind some of these women who do that?
You really have to deep dive into their background, really.
Yeah.
Like what's their story?
I want half
you
the
know?
episode about that. Yes, we'll talk about the crime, but it's only a 3-day crime, and we definitely want to talk about the victims for sure. Give them some recognition, but I want to talk about that because what is wrong with women that do this?
Yeah.
So we will get into that next time.
All right.
All right.
Okay, bye
See you
again.
later.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.